Welcome to Catalyzing Change Week. This year's Catalyzing Change Week is about solutions from the front lines by social innovators.
In 2022, Catalyst 2030 concentrated its efforts on bringing proximate leaders and frontline solutions to the forefront. Collaborations led by members from the Global South produced groundbreaking reports on climate and transforming education, with an emphasis on offering local solutions. We continued our mission to create an enabling environment for social entrepreneurs to flourish by initiating a letter to donors, signed by more than 1,200 social entrepreneurs and innovators. The Catalyst 2030 awards ceremony was spectacular, and the awards themselves welcomed by the private sector, governments, bio multilaterals and donors.
Catalyst 2030 as a movement is disruptive.
One of the best things I think that's come out of Catalyst 2030 so far is incredible collaboration across the ecosystem that just didn't exist before Catalyst came into being.
The thing I love most about Catalyst is that it's an open movement for social entrepreneurs around the world.
I'd encourage anyone who's looking to be more connected with their local communities around social development goals to come along to Catalyzing Change Week.
Welcome to Catalyzing Change Week.
Nice.
Welcome everyone to Catalyst 2030. Over to you, Dr. Auda.
Okay, shall I share? Okay, let me try to share. Okay, can you see the slides or?
Yes, we can.
Yes, okay.
Welcome everybody. It's a pleasure to be with you. I'm based in Bahrain. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Basically, I'm happy to share with you a 2 or 3 year initiative looking at what we call Global Minds University. And I'm happy to have one of our co-founders, Professor Mufid Sami Rai, based in Emirates, and Dr. Evren from Hamad University, and other people from different parts of the world who were able part of the co-creation, and with Dr. Rana Dajani as well. So basically, human history became more and more, there is always disruption in education, that some people believe that old models of education after COVID now is being transformative. So we need to be aware that education in the old paradigm need to change. What we are trying to see, the mission or the vision of Global Mind University, GMU, was inspired by, during the COVID-19 last 2 years, we thought that there is an opportunity for a paradigm shift, that we can offer the youth, young professionals, refugees, a platform for global education. And the key idea of these groups are basically, they can be basically people who are fresh graduates who cannot afford to pay high fees, since education is being not affordable for many people, especially graduate education. And also we can offer an online education for the youth and refugees. These are interesting quotes that I'd like to share with you about disruptive education. And if you look at these quotes, we can see that there is a foresight that the brick and mortar universities will be part of history, and now we need to be part of a new transformative change of new ideas of a platform for global educations. What we've witnessed in the last 5 decades, from the early 20th century till 1980, as you can see, that the focus was in education in terms of a growth. So however, after 1980, nowadays, especially after COVID, we can see that technology is winning over education, and now people are accepting the idea that we can work virtually and we can work on a different business model. What's interesting in terms of demand, in terms of market demand, we are seeing a huge demand. There's a surge of demand of students in the last 2 decades. In the year 2000, it was about 100 million students globally. Now it's over more than 200 million students. So there is a demand, but at least now we need to realize that the affordability of this demand is not open for developing countries like in MENA region. However, the technology has transformed in the last 2 decades or more from massive online open courses to inverted class to blended adaptive learning to more of adaptive learning. So we need to see the spectrum of different modes of education, and we need to be aware how we can harness the wave and unlock human potential to offer new models of education. One of these paradigm shifts is what we refer to as moving from vertical to horizontal offering of education. Historically, university was more vertically aligned and integrated. Now, with technological transformation, we are witnessing a horizontal services for higher education institutions, where you can see technology and offerings are being unbundled horizontally. And also part of the waves of innovation and adoption and diffusion of technology in education, we are also witnessing that different platforms like learning management systems or I4 or mobile universities are emerging as part of a new paradigm of learning in this digital era. For now, going back to the Global Mind University, basically the value proposition, we did a business model canvas for the university. The value proposition is simple. Basically, as you can see here, is to provide students with the skills and competencies, and also to facilitate internship and linkage between industry and university, and also to mentor what we call peer-to-peer learning, to offer peer-to-peer learning from alumni or from senior people to the young generation of learners. This is in a nutshell a summary that was co-created with our colleagues, Professor Samir Ra'i and Professor Dajani and other colleagues from different parts of the world. Simply, we are trying to be a demand-driven, to have a demand-driven education, and to use a digital platform, learning management systems, e-platform, and to provide, to address the demand. So we have SASTA. Dr. Rana Dajani is heading SASTA, which is basically a membership organization for educators who are willing to offer their contributions. It's Arab scientists who are willing to offer their contributions as endowment fund. And so basically we want to see the demand from youth and refugees, women, young people who are fresh graduates, or any people who are in need of education. So based on demand, we design a program by approaching the suppliers from the online communities, including yourselves, and through an e-platform. And so basically the idea is to have a global online virtual education based on demand, and the key link it to social innovation or cultural innovation or spirituality. We try to link it in the Middle East with what we call a waqf. Waqf is endowment fund, is basically the reward will be for infinity, not for 30 years, like a market economy. So we want to have what we call a waqf, endowment waqf for knowledge and time. So you have a senior professor who is age over 60 or 70, but he can devote 20 hours of his time to teach people artificial intelligence or construction or sustainability or whatever. So based on the demand of certain youth or refugees in the MENA region or worldwide, these professionals in SASTA or the online community worldwide can offer through a smart platform, can offer one-to-one modules for learning. So basically it's built on what we call a trust fund or waqf fund for time and knowledge. So we believe in our culture that knowledge is an asset, intellectual asset. So this intellectual capital can be allocated as a global good, as a public good that can contribute to a public value. So the proposal here, the value proposition is how can every one of us add value to life, how every one of us can add value to global knowledge through a trust fund of time and knowledge, regardless of the knowledge. It could be technical, it could be social, it could be languages, it could be in agriculture or aquaculture, or it could be in any domain. So this is basically the model, linking demand and supply, but we start with the demand side, and then from the demand we match the supply from SAST and the online community with people who can offer meet the demand of those people. So the target audience, as I just mentioned, is basically young people, youth, women looking for human dignity, looking for having human emancipation through knowledge. We have so far many strategic alliances. I'm happy that Dr. Evren Tok is with us from King Hamad University. We have partnership with Hamad University, with UN Habitat, Masdar. We are exploring partnership with all of those universities. Sharqa University, Professor Mufid is with us from Sharqa University and the Academy. And also we have contacts with Japan, Egyptian University, and other universities in the MENA region. And the purpose for this session basically is to try to seek more partners who are doers, who can move the initiative to a next level, either by sponsoring a platform or by taking a pilot project. So the next stage is to try to pilot, experiment, and test this model by trying to teach and use the infrastructure of one of these partners to move and test this model. Well, now part of the business model or the profit model of this university is that if we charge, the business model should be financially sustainable, looking at what we call the long tail, which is basically the future of the business is selling less of more. So if you have more courses, simple courses in engineering or management or whatever, but we have a global partnership, so we can create a profit model that is sustainable and that is viable. We did our business model canvas in terms of looking at the resources, the partners, and now we are inviting you to see how we can move the partners. So we did a business model canvas for the Global Mind University to look at logistical forces, the organizational forces, and the expertise forces, looking at different, we'd say, supply and demand and the enablers to make the GMU, the Global Mind University, a reality through what we call design thinking approach by piloting and scaling up to the global arena. Now the final slide, I leave more time for discussion and more reflection from Dr. Mufid and Dr. Evren and the rest of our colleagues, since they were partners of us. And so basically the next step, we are looking for your role as a partner, since Catalyst 2030 is about co-creation. It's about alignment of and harnessing the power of the networks. So we are looking for partners for piloting and scaling up. And we are welcoming contributions that this work can see light and move to the next level. So I would invite, I would be happy to listen to your feedback or your comments, since I would welcome Professor Samir Ra'i, since he was one of the think leaders on this project. Dr. Mufid, if you want to add more, please.
Thank you, Professor Awad. That's a very nice introduction and review of the ideas and concepts which you have, and I would like to welcome all the distinguished guests and my dear friend Dr. Rana Tajani. It has been some time. Well, of course, it's when you dream of something or you plan something which is really a dream, and it needs to be materialized, you always have to find, of course, the aims and the concepts behind it, and you have that, and it's a noble idea. I think there's nobody in the world which would not support it. It's just the second step, which is the most important thing, is to materialize these ideas and put it really in application. And that's where I'm sure Dr. Aude has been trying, and Rana, I know she's really the master in these things, is to find a foundation for it. Some universities, some establishment, some to really base your building on that foundation. If you have that foundation, then the whole thing is safe and will endure, because the idea is there. The ideas, the concept, the preparations, it's amazing. And the effort being put into it. So the thing is, who is to be the umbrella for that university? I think the resources need to be a bit more defined, and then the application is very easy. Universities now, they are very easy to start once you have someone who sponsors it and supports it. I mean, I know now, I'm even surprised now in Iraq, there are some, in the past 4 years, that some 120 universities, everybody who has funds and money makes a university. But this university is going to be really according to international standards and very professional. So it's not going to be just something in the iCloud or something like that. So we have to look into that. If we just find some institute that we can base it, and one or organization that will support it, and then don't worry about who gives the lectures. Not a lot of people will contribute. I know maybe some 5-10 professors who will be very much willing to do it free of charge. Don't worry about that. That's I think is there. The thing is getting from this to that stage, finding the umbrella that will hold that university and bring it to reality. I think even having the approvals for the universities is easy. Dr. Rana is the master in this, and I think that will be what I think something we can all try to find a way and the path to it. And thank you very much.
Maybe Dr. Rana, sorry, I didn't see you. Please go ahead, Dr. Rana, if you want to add more.
Oh, no, I was planning to comment after everybody else commented. So please.
That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead, Dr. Evren. You wanted to invite him?
Okay, Dr. Evren, maybe. Dr. Evren, please.
Frankly, I'm just more inclined to listen and kind of express my support. But please, you have more valuable things to say rather than me. But as College of Public Policy and Hamad bin Khalifa University, Qatar Foundation, we have done a lot of work together, and we have a lot of ongoing work as well. And I think that's a very solid proof that we have the basis for a strong partnership. So our support is with you as foundation and as the university. I'm always more than happy to be the liaison between your work and what we can offer from here in Qatar.
Maybe we can link it to Mizan or SDGs, Dr. Evan.
We can connect to, of course, Al Mizan, SDGs, but also there are some new initiatives such as Plateau Maslaha, which is a pulse experimentation space where we actually want the youth to engage in experimentation, coming up with new innovative solutions to the problems in the world in a more applied, interdisciplinary, and innovative ways. So when we say global minds, right? It's not really a kind of like kind of the solutions that we had in the past, or that's the same blueprint, but we can innovate. So I think global mind is a great opportunity to kind of connect our resources. So definitely our support is with you.
So maybe we can have the piloting and scaling up through the Plateau Maslaha, perhaps.
For sure, absolutely, yes.
Excellent. So I think Ghufran, you are raising your hand. Maybe you want to facilitate, Doctor. You are the moderator, Dr. Rana. Maybe you moderate. Sorry, I'll stop.
I just have a question. If that, yes. So I'm really happy to see the interest that it's coming from all around the world about this idea, which also reflects how important it is. My question is, since we will be through this Global Minds University, we will be doing a service, for example, and providing the knowledge for the refugees, for women who usually does not have access to the internet. So is there anything or any plan for this Global Minds University to provide another medium other than the internet for these populations and for these people to access the knowledge? Because, for example, I was thinking we can also connect this content to servers through knowledge hubs that already work inside of the refugee camps, for example, or those knowledge stations that allow, for example, the communities who do not have a lot of access or a good access to internet also to access this platform and this knowledge. And I think we can also have think about another medium like radio stations, which or satellite channeling of knowledge, because this have been happening actually as an alternative for providing the information only or solely through the internet. So I just have a question about the mediums. Is there any other medium other than the internet or not?
You're on mute.
Dr. Rana, you facilitate. You are the moderator.
Yeah. No, if you were on mute, do you want to respond to Ghufran?
Well, basically, in a nutshell, yes, all modes are open. We will be glad to entertain and explore different models from face-to-face. It could be a summer workshop. It could be a study. It could be digital. It could be on the cloud. So, or peer-to-peer. So basically, the entire spectrum from frugal innovation, very, very basic, to more advanced, to using AI perhaps in the future. Maybe you can choose AI and ChatGPT perhaps.
Yeah, and the concerns you raised are very important and relevant, and they have been brought up in our journey of setting up the framework and the prototype of the Global Minds University. And of course, it will be, as we roll it out, it will be done in stages. And probably we would start online, but there is already in the plan things to be hybrid. So there will be physical locations for face-to-face or access to knowledge hubs, as you said. And maybe I'll just add to what Professor Aude said. in the planning process, we have met with, I want to say, almost over 100 different partners who we have shared the concept with them, who are on board to help us once we start. And of course, most importantly, for refugees, we've been talking with UNHCR, and they're very interested in this. This is one of their goals, their objectives, is how do you provide quality education for refugees within the circumstances and limitations that they exist all across the world. And of course, we're piloting and starting it out in the Middle East. Unfortunately, because we have the highest population of refugees, not something we're proud of, but it's an opportunity and a challenge that we can use that. So UNHCR is one of those partners who is very interested, and as well as other universities in the region and across the region, especially universities who already operate on these concepts, right? And there are a few around the world. So we have been in talks with them because we don't want to reinvent the wheel. We want to learn what others have done, build on their experience, and maybe address the challenges they have faced in our new rollout, in our new project, so to speak. And please, if anybody has any comments or questions or critiques, we would love to hear from them today, now in this audience, but even later on to reach out to us and talk. And if anyone has a question, you can raise your hand or type in the chat. And as people think about their comments or reflections, maybe I'll share a little bit more. Talking and highlighting what is different about the Global Minds University. Because today, in this era, we are hearing so many examples and projects of education and pedagogies online and offline to serve the different needs. There's 9 billion people on the planet, so the more, the better. But what is unique about Global Minds, I think, is that we are very innovative, not just in the approach of teaching in our pedagogy, but also in putting the student in the center. And we don't want to give them the typical academic learning, because that's not what the future of education is. It's about preparing them for a future where they can be ready with the skills and the critical thinking, whatever that future brings to them, because it is unknown. It is unknown for everyone in the world, but it's also more unknown for those who come from vulnerable communities. So what we can do is provide them with those skills. And even today, with the advance of artificial intelligence and machine learning, people are questioning the relevance of education. People are questioning what is the future of employment, of the economy. And so this university, this kind of education, which is very unique and special, becomes very, very relevant and important. So there's going to be a lot of design as we go. And because it's sourcing, it's crowdsourcing. And so that's another way of innovation, not just crowdsourcing in terms of money, it's crowdsourcing in terms of knowledge and skills, by pulling on everybody to come and contribute and give. And I think the innovation here is pulling from our culture, as we come from the Islamic Arabic civilization, and pulling on the concept of endowment in the way it was developed 1,000 years ago. And that I can give back. I can give and participate to make a difference in a very new yet ancient way. So it kind of combines those and offers an opportunity for anyone around the world to contribute. We hear these terrible news every day, and we sit in despair in our armchairs and think, what can we do? This is an opportunity for people to reach out and give back. And that's why SASTA was informed. So SASTA is the Society for Advancement of Science and Technology in the Arab world. It's a network of scientists in diaspora who come from the Arab world. But we lead other diaspora networks from other countries around the world, whether it's China or Spain or France or Mexico. So we kind of lead. We have a platform called Global Diaspora, which we'll probably put a link. I don't know if Lana still has that link to put it in the chat. So
yes, I will share it right now.
Yeah, scientists in diaspora, you don't have to be Arab. Any scientists in diaspora, and there's plenty, can actually join this community. And when the Global Minds University is ready, we will invite all these scientists in diaspora to give back, because refugees are everywhere. They're not just, they may come from one place more densely, but in the end, they're dispersed everywhere around the world. And so everyone counts in giving and helping back. I also want to talk about innovation and funding. right? The way we proposed it being funded, it's also about exploring alternative ways. The typical government funding or philanthropy funding is there, but creating a new way of funding it, again, through endowments and thinking outside the box is something we're open to, and we want people to think creatively. So we're offering an opportunity for people to come and be crazy and to go wild, and let the test be the actual implementation. Not only in terms of implementing, but in the person who suggests the idea to actually be the executor of that idea. And that's the whole principle behind Catalyst, that we are a community of doers, right? So anybody who has an idea, we invite you to come, but don't just throw the idea to us. Join us, be part of the team, and execute, and together we can make a difference. And I think that's the essence of teamwork, essence of collaboration, and the essence of what social entrepreneurship is. And maybe the last thing I would like to say here is this is the future, not just of education, this is the future of social innovation. And maybe even the word social, this is the future of system innovation, because this is about systems. Right? It's about changing all stakeholders, whether we're talking about government, we're talking about private sector, we're talking about public sector, civic society. All of them have a stake in this, because if they don't participate in making a future generation with better education that is geared towards application, everyone will pay the price later on. So it's about paying it forward. It's about thinking long-term of investment in this systems innovation, maybe for lack of a better word, economy, right? And this is something that Catalyst is championing going forward, thinking of how can we do a paradigm shift? How can we shift the needle in doing good in this world to ultimately achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, but even beyond that. And yeah, so please, anyone would like to comment? Cameron, you've been commenting in the chat. I'm trying to read and speak at the same time. We'd love to hear your thoughts.
So what I'm building at the moment, which I'm branding as Social Impact University. It's not really a university, but I thought that sounded pretty good. And I got the website. But I'm starting with using the curriculum, the Australian curriculum, which is a high standard, credible curriculum. And I've selected units that relate to sustainability, social enterprise, and other areas that could build people's capacity to work towards attaining the SDGs. And so I've already got the syllabus and curriculum, all the learning outcomes for 97 courses. So I won't be able to do all of them this lifetime, but I'll make a start. But apart from the courses that I'm doing the instructional design for, the platform is also able to host any courses that anybody else publishes in SCORM or APIX format. So that's just the industry standard e-learning modules that any instructional design software can publish to. So I could host those. And the idea is that as long as they are good quality, like no spelling errors, good pedagogy, so good quality courses, and if they're in some way making a difference, so aligned with at least one of the SDGs, I'd be happy to host those. And they can be hosted in multiple places. It just means that anyone who comes to my platform will also then be able to do those. And if they're being offered at no cost, so for example, to refugees or anywhere, then I'd be happy to absorb the hosting cost for that and host it on my platform at no cost. Or if there is a fee, then just charge a very modest, maybe half of what some of the other proprietary systems charge, like Udemy. So this is my current project.
Wow, once one opens up and reaches out to create collaborations, partnerships, it's like the universe says yes, and things happen. It's so positive. So thank you, Cameron, for sharing. And I think this is part of how are we going to navigate this as we gain more and more partners. What is that framework that can hold all these people together? And I think Catalyst can help in that, because that's one of the prime tenets of Catalyst, which is how do we hold and sustain and move forward with collaborations. I don't know, Professor Aude, did you want to comment?
Thank you, Professor Rana. Well, I think I'm happy to see the feedback from Mr. Cameron Price. I think this is illuminating, and this is inspiring for us to test, pilot, and scale up. So I'll be glad to establish contact with Dr. Rana, with our team, to move to the next level, to do the piloting and the experimentation. So I think we are at this critical stage. We are looking for partners, as I just mentioned in my brief presentation, and we are looking for scaling up and piloting to move to the next level. So we welcome the proposal from Mr. Cameron, and where we can see we'll be glad to build on it.
Yeah, and I would like to add, also throw out, because we have time to have a more in-depth discussion. I think one of the issues that we want in this Global Minds University, and is worth discussing, is that we don't want the typical education, the typical certificate, the typical academic skills, because we know these are sometimes not relevant at all to the workplace. And people who graduate have to go on a whole training and maybe even unlearning a lot of the things they've learned, so that they can really be more productive in tomorrow's world. So the question that I would throw out to everyone is, how would we design these new courses? And I think this is something we have put some thought in, right, Professor Aude, about how do we redesign these courses? How do we make them applicable? How do we put a community component? How do we put a practical component in it? Do we partner? And here, the private sector becomes very relevant, right? Offering opportunities, internships, and then a pathway. So one thing we haven't, I don't think, Professor Aude, you mentioned, is the pipeline we envision for our students, right? To start learning what are those capacities, competencies that they need. But then how does their journey, their pipeline goes to more applications, internships, relevant skills, and then how do they end up with a job? Because there's a challenge of, do we offer these courses for free? Do they pay back later to build commitment if they get a job? I mean, there's different models out there, and this is something worth discussing. So I threw out these 2 points about payments and about developing curricula and courses that are applicable to you, to share with us, all of you. You don't have to have a solution. You could answer with a question, which is also useful.
Thank you, Professor Rana. I think one starting point is to look at demand. So it's demand driven. We need to look at demand first. So it would be nice if there is a refugee camp in Lebanon or Turkey or Jordan or whatever, and we identify a youth or women who want a certain skill or competency. So we can build on this target group, this sample, and then build the entire model. So it would be interesting if anybody of the audience can propose either a target group or maybe an idea for experimentation. It could be aquaculture or agriculture, or it could be languages or technology, or very simple, how to start your own business. So I would welcome any thoughts on what would be the best starting point as a piloting module.
May I jump in?
Yeah, please go ahead, please.
My thinking was that I've arranged the modules that I've designed as a pathway that reflects the social entrepreneur's journey, from ideation through to developing a pitch deck, a business plan, financial management system, human resources system to put a team together, and it follows it through and iteratively builds depth as it goes. And I've mapped it against 20 Australian qualifications, including 3 postgrad quals. And I've partnered with 2 registered training organisations, because in Australia, it's a regulated training environment. You can't just say, hey, I'm doing a diploma. You actually have to be registered by the government and there's quality audits. It's very onerous, which is good. But I've partnered with 2 art registered training organizations so that the people who go through the courses that I'm developing, if they actually do everything and produce the evidence of that competency, then they'll be awarded statements of attainment. And the first 4 modules, they'll get a diploma of business. But even though it's the generic units, it's contextualized with very heavy emphasis on sustainability, social justice, all of the things that we want to see the business world do. So anyone who follows that and designs a business would score very highly on the B Corp assessment, for example. So that was my approach. And I'm imagining that from having many discussions with people in the Global South, the feedback that I'm getting is that training for jobs per se isn't helpful because there are no jobs. But they need the entrepreneurial skills and also the vocational skills so that they can actually build the products or deliver the services where there's the demand for. That was my thinking.
Thank you. No, you've hit a number of points that are very relevant to this discussion and to this project and the university. And I think I want to share your concern about certification and accreditation, right? Because it's not just the issue in your country. These people are mobile. They get displaced multiple times. And how do we make sure that those accreditations in one country can be transferred across borders? That's another issue that we need to pay attention to and put it in the list of things that need to be addressed one at a time. But absolutely, which actually leads to another problem, which is entry. Right, so you have certification, accreditation, how you transfer that, but it's about, okay, if I have a certification from, say, Cameron, your platform, will I be employed, or somebody's going to ask me about my high school diploma, right, which I don't have because I'm a refugee and I left when I was in 10th grade, Syria. That's a big issue as well. We are seeing, working with refugees on the ground, that many of them don't have their high school diplomas, and so they cannot enter any academic institution. And so how do we solve that within platforms like yours or the Global Minds University? And even if we do, will they hit a block later when they get employed? So for example, in Jordan, you won't be employed if you don't show your high school diploma, even if you have the highest degree later on. So these are challenges in the system. So what do we do? Of course, the best and the most important thing is revamping the whole system and coming up with systems that are more open, more flexible. But that's going to be one step at a time, one nudge at a time. And it's about learning from each other and then citing exemplars, right? Saying, oh, wait a minute, they did it in that country, so then we can do it. Right. And so sharing those examples, and maybe I'll share also, Jordan has been working hard from people who really have these similar concerns to change accreditation and acceptance. And I don't know how many know, but in Jordan, we've merged 3 ministries: the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Higher Education, and the Ministry of Labor into one ministry. And the idea is to put our students into a pipeline from early on that is not based on the typical traditional qualifications, but something that really sets them out on a journey to find, to be an entrepreneur, to create a new job, or to fill the gaps in the job market where there's no certificate that fills it. It's only experience that makes them qualified. But to me, those are 2 issues that you brought up that are important and relevant to this discussion, because if we want to propose a solution, it has to be a complete holistic solution, because otherwise there's a lot of Band-Aids out there, right, that can fill. But if we really want to help, we need to think the whole thing through. And that's why it's about collective thinking, which brings me to another point. And I don't know if Debbie can comment or not from Catalyst, is Catalyst has a concept, an idea of creating in the future an academy. And the academy would be to train what's the best word, people to have the skills to be social innovators, which is what you said, Cameron, and what we are talking about one way or another. Because if you're a social innovator, you have that mindset. So it's about preparing a mindset that can be resourceful, find the solutions they need, because we can't think of all the solutions, but we can help people have the trust in themselves and the agency to come up with solutions and seek opportunities wherever they may be, or if they can't find them, create them themselves.
I do think, Rana, I think you're right about the Catalyst Academy being that space for, I don't have the traditional education, or I already have the education, but I want to further my expertise in this area, but I don't have the opportunity to go back to school for that. So that's where the Academy kind of fits in that niche area, and very, very practical in terms of for social entrepreneurs by social entrepreneurs.
Absolutely. Thank you, Debbie, for sharing that. And that's why Global Minds University is one of these collaborations in Catalyst. And we're inviting members to join, and so that we can really get this thing running on the road, right, Professor Aude and everyone else? You're on mute.
I think also we explored looking at universities in countries who are hosting refugees, like Lebanon, Jordan, Turkey, Germany, Sweden. So we can think of North-South, a dialogue, a bridge, like I would call it House of Wisdom Road between North and South, Sweden, Germany, Turkey, Lebanon. So this Silk Road or Knowledge Road can basically bring the metaphor of Netflix. So basically people can have on-demand learning whenever they want. So it's 728, 724. People can basically have on-demand learning. So using the metaphor of university is not brick and mortar anymore. It's more of a community-based university. It's not only digital, but rather it's about human empathy. So it's not about market economy, but rather it's more of the social, I would say, social spiritual economy and spiritual intelligence or spiritual capital. So we want to build on this notion of spiritual capital by looking at the Waqf or endowment fund for time and knowledge. So basically our existence, our public value is underpinned by time and knowledge. So if we can unlock the potential, human potential of disseminating time and knowledge, basically we are creating a global humane citizen rather than a consumer.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. And it reminds me that that's great, right? But how do we put it out in the world so that people can point to it and say, yes, that's what we want to do. That's what we want to that's what we want to participate in. And what your words brought to my memory, the UN just last week passed a resolution for the social and solidarity economy, which speaks exactly what you're saying, Dr. Aude. And you can use that and wave it in front of governments or private sector and say, look, this is a UN resolution that's been agreed upon by multiple countries. So if you're hesitant or you're not sure whether this is the way we should go, it is, and use it to our advantage, so to speak, right? Because it's all about not give outs, it's about handshakes. It's about working together. As you said it much better way than I am repeating it. And I think that's something we can add to our value proposition by saying this is what the world is doing now. This is today's world going forward. And also 2 weeks ago at the World Bank, I mean, with all underlining 100 lines under the World Bank and the IMF, but they're also talking about an evolutionary roadmap of how do we eliminate poverty and how do we help people not just eliminate severe poverty, but how do we give people a better life, right? So now they're going beyond just taking away poverty, but also to give them a more prosperous life. And the fundamental tenet of any prosperous life is education. And so, and their evolutionary roadmap is about starting with the countries, starting from the ground up. And again, these are things we can use to gain more support and partners to say, this is the way forward. Finally, the world is waking up, and we have a solution. We're ready. We're already ahead of you because we have a solution. So I mean, this is the first time. Hopefully, we'll wrap up on time, so people can have enough time before they jump to another session, because these sessions in Catalyzing Change Week are back to back or even simultaneous. So hopefully, we will able to give you some time to grab a cup of coffee before the next session. If nobody has any other comments or sharing or has any questions, our emails. Yeah, please go ahead. Anybody has a comment?
May I just jump in? In terms, some principles I think would be useful to keep in mind is have whatever training is developed be competency based, whatever theory is necessary, of course, but so that they're developing the very real skills. And in the process of that, building a portfolio of evidence. So in the old world, the credibility of the qualification came from the degree to which the institution was esteemed. But if we're going to not rely on the old, sandstone universities, then the question is, where does credibility come from? Because there's a lot of charlatans and low quality courses. So if we have some certain standards and principles that we apply, one of them is that it should be competency based, and that there's evidence. So then if they go to another country or apply for a job or an apprenticeship and they say, well, where did you get this qualification? They can say, well, I got it here, but here is the portfolio of evidence of all of the work that I did. And the other thing is it could be distributed rather than necessarily centralized. I know the convenience and the usual assumption is that you have a single host, but that's not necessary anymore. There needs to be coordination. So there's alignment of effort, and we're mutually reinforcing activities, not working at cross purposes. But there are ways of coordinating other than centralization. So just a few thoughts.
No, thank you. Those are amazing. And it points to the same thing. It's about this paradigm shift, right? Of not doing what was in the past, but creating a whole new world. And we know there are going to be challenges and limitations, but that's the good thing, that we're going to come up with something new to address those challenges as we go forward in creating this new world. About distributed certification, the individual portfolio showing their evidence for wherever they go. No, those are great ideas.
If I may, Doctor, now people talk about moving from vertical to horizontal with digital transformation. Now people in medicine talk about personalized medicine. So maybe also part of this model is to have personalized learning, personalized education. So if somebody wants to do in Africa or Asia certain agriculture, certain agriculture or aquaculture, so you have an expert who can do with him one-to-one, and also can have some sort of field experimentation. So we want also to link theory and action, either through internships or through action learning. So I think the model will not be purely theoretical, but rather it has to include what we call action learning, experiential learning, and maybe some internship with some industry or some civil society.
Yes, yes to all of that. Thank you. So the question that I'm going to leave everybody with as we wrap up this session, which has been very interesting, exciting, and inspirational, is what's next, right? Well, what's the next step, right? We're all excited. We all want to be part of this. What is next in terms of practical steps forward? One thing I would suggest is this is a task force under Catalyst 2030 that we're working on, so people can join. And it's led by Professor Aoude and me. And I want to say that we did not talk about Global Minds University in last year's Catalyzing Change Week because we were waiting to get more substance around it, but I think we're ready. That's why we suggested doing it now. But over to you, Professor Aoude. Other than that step that I suggested, what is the next step for everyone?
Well, I believe we need to have a task force, maybe a group of people who are interested, like-minded, like Cameron or other people who are basically interested. Maybe they can share their emails with our team, Ghofran or Lana and Dr. Rana, and then we can have maybe a focus group. Maybe we can have a focus group meeting via Zoom to do an operational plan and a model to move to design scaling up and piloting of the next steps. So we do some simple planning after that. So if anybody is interested, please share your email with our team, Ghufran and Lana. And then from there, we can have more focus group for a planning exercise.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you very much. It's nice we have something we're going to do as soon as we leave. And I wish we could clone ourselves so we could have multiple people of ourselves and we could be in everything at the same time. That would be fantastic. Maybe that's one discovery we should focus on for the benefit of everybody, everywhere, every place, everyone, all at once. With that, I leave you in spend the rest of your day wherever you are, whether it's evening, afternoon, or morning. Enjoy it. Don't forget to go attend other Catalyzing Change Week sessions. They're fantastic. You get inspired. You're going to be all over the place. And don't forget to follow up on at least one of them. Right? Don't lose that energy and that momentum. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you, Professor Aouda, for a wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
Hopefully
Thank
next year we will have something concrete to share, whether
Absolutely.
it's students or faculty, inshallah. Take care, everyone. Thank you very much.
Assalamu alaikum.